ask if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Before we get into the agenda, there's a letter I'd like to read into the record. This is from Shelley Tetrow. To the members of the Deerfield Community School Board, it is with great sorrow and regret that I inform you and the public that I'm asking to step down from my responsibilities with the school board. Due to personal demands and work-related schedule changes, I reluctantly will have to resign from my position effective immediately. It has been my pleasure to be able to be part of the board and part of the Deerfield Community School for years. Over the years, students, teachers, and administration have been overwhelmingly inspiring and heartfelt in their devotion to our community school and its outstanding values and all that it strives for. My heart will always be with the school and its members, and I will miss the efforts that go into the board and the team that stands for it. I'm asking the public to stand and be part of the Deerfield Community School and keep the path rolling for the greatness of our children here in Deerfield. Thank you to the board, the PTO, SAU 53, the administration, and of course students for making the past 4.5 years truly something I will never forget. Shelley Tetrow. So we are now down one board member. And I would like to say on behalf of the board that we will sincerely miss Shelley and that she was a huge asset to this board and a thoughtful and meaningful and well-intentioned person who always had the interest of the community and the school at the foremost. So, with that, we will now move on to minutes of August 22nd, 2018. Move as written. Second. Any corrections or changes? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Next item is public comments. And the purpose of the public comments is for the board to hear from the public. It is not a conversation. We are happy to hear anything anyone says. We do ask that you keep your comments to 2 minutes. Please announce who you are and where you live.
My name is Rebecca Hutchinson. I called the SAU to request time to be on the agenda with the Deerfield School Board because I am a candidate for state representative, and they suggested that the best way to do it was to go through public comments, which is a little unique. That isn't how it's done in the other towns, but I'm fine with that. That makes sense. So I don't think I can do this in 2 minutes, but I'll be very short.
I think we can be lenient.
So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rebecca Hutchinson. I'm running for state representative. I have lived in Deerfield for 44 years, I believe. Our kids went through much of the public schools here. They're now grown, and I've spent the day being a grandparent to our 3rd grandchild in Vermont. I know that I'm fairly well known in Deerfield because I've been very active in Focus and Swap Shop. When our kids were in school, we were the PTO co-chair. But what I actually like to tell people is actually more of my professional background, because I think it relates well to why I think that I'm a strong candidate. I started out as a public school teacher in Epsom when we moved to Deerfield in the 70s. I taught 4th and 5th grade for 3 years in Epsom. But after that, when our children were young, I worked in retail. Back when our kids were young, this woman over here wasn't a great babysitter for our kids. I worked part-time retail much of that time. When I ended my career, I was a administrator of home care. And in between, I also did commission sales for a mystery shopping firm that actually grew out of my retail experience. So I mentioned those things because I've worked in a lot of different industries. I've worked as a public school teacher. I've worked in private industry. I was in the legislature in the 90s and represented Deerfield and Candy and Auburn at that time. I also worked by Kidsman High School, and I worked full-time. I was a 100% commissioned salesperson. When I ended, as I said, I was an administrator for home care, and I worked in a small agency that was for-profit. And my final job before I retired 3 years ago, I managed a large statewide nonprofit home care agency. It was, at that time, it was Lutheran Social Services. It's now Century of Home Care. So what I like to point out is that I have worked in both the for-profit and public sector, and I really deeply believe that varied experience gives me a broad perspective to look at issues. And so not only do I have the experience, for example, in home care of families, desperate to get care for their family members or disabled kids, but at the same time, I also know what it's like to run a business and have to deal with off-the-charts workers' comp rates and personnel issues when there's a forever shortage. So I think that part of what I offer is a balanced approach and sort of a realism that you can't get everything for everybody, and you try to look at it carefully. In closing, I think there's a couple of issues that are important, particularly to me. One of the reasons I ran this time, I served 2 terms in the 90s, and the reason I'm back at it, I have more time now, I'm retired, but also there was a bill last session that would have created a paid family leave program, and as a home care administrator, I saw families who were really challenged with trying to keep their parents or grandparents or spouse at home and having to deal with the challenges of also having to work. And so I saw that issue very clearly. And I also saw it from the perspective of our employees who were non-medical caregivers that were getting $10 to $12 an hour, and when their own family members were sick, they couldn't afford to take time off. So I testified in favor of that bill. I thought it was a very reasonable solution, and it failed. And our current legislators voted against it or did not support it. Another issue that was important to me was Senate Bill 193, which the school board, I'm sure, is aware of. Was the bill that would have created what was called educational savings accounts, but in fact would have taken public money and funneled it to private schools, including religious schools and home schools. And that effort failed, not only because there was concern about that it was against the New Hampshire Constitution, but also because it would have drained money from the public schools. And there was a bipartisan defeat of that bill, including the chairman of the House Finance Committee, Neil Kirk, who is about as conservative as they come and knows the New Hampshire budget inside and out. And he was clear that we should not be putting more pressure on property taxes. So there's lots of other things, but I think that's kind of what I'd like to present, and appreciate your opportunity, for giving me the opportunity to do.
Are there, since this is a little irregular for public comment, since she has to be on the agenda, are there any questions for Ms. Hutchinson?
I might just add, just to confuse everybody about the districts. There is District 2, where you will be voting for 3 people. On the Republican side, there are 5 people running for 3 positions. After September 11th, we will know who those 3 people are. On the Democratic side, there are only 3 people running for 3 positions, so we don't have a primary. But after September 11th, you will have a choice of 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans. You can vote for any 3, and on November 6th. And then we also are part of a 2nd district, just to confuse you more. And in that district, you vote for 1. So It's confusing.
Any other public comments?
You wanna go first?
Yes. Hi, I'm Donna Spillane, and I'm here because I guess there was an issue today that I wanted to see if you guys were aware of or addressing, because I was told that it would be spoken about today. And it's about the buses that are going down by the Parks and Recs. Okay, and, all right, well, they're all filled. So apparently there's a lot of things going on, activities for after school down there, and all the buses are getting filled. So a lot of moms have been blowing my phone up, trying to get transportation for their kids. And I was wondering if that was gonna be brought up today, if that was brought to your attention, if there's anything to be done about it.
I think Parks and Rec is here to talk to us, but like I said, public comments are for us to listen to what you have to say.
Oh.
It's not always a conversation.
Okay, well, I just didn't know, I thought, I was told it was on the agenda today, so I didn't see it on the agenda. And
Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec is on the agenda.
but is that to do with the transportation?
It'll be part of the discussion tonight.
Okay, all right, just wanted to know if you guys were aware, that's all.
You're aware.
Okay, all right, that's it, all right. Move on. Go ahead, Lily.
Thank you. Leila Thompson, I've never seen this many people at a school board meeting. Like, I'm in awe as a person who attends so many school board meetings, but I'm like, how? There's almost not enough seats. That's really encouraging and impressive, and yay, and I think there's one in a few weeks. But as I haven't come to the last few school board meetings, and you know, in the meantime, I got this. I want to point out, because I'm usually the one who's, I'm not shy to point out things I don't like. And I want to acknowledge, last year I asked at least 7 times to see my son's testing scores. And I finally got to the point that I had to take to Facebook to publicly ask for them, and then they came a few weeks later. And part of that is because my son was in 4th grade the first time I ever saw a single test score from the school. I had teachers allude to the fact that he had been tested. He was my only son, I didn't know. And I had people allude to it, and I kind of knew it was happening. So it was 4th grade that I saw, and it was really hard when you don't get your child's scores for the first, 5 years they attend the school, because he's still in kindergarten. So I want to say thank you that over the summer it arrived in my mailbox with an appropriate, succinct, to-the-point letter. And so I want to acknowledge that and say thank you. It was really frustrating, so it's nice when you're frustrated about something and you see it change. And I want to take it a step further, and it does saying this, so parents can start to be involved or plan their children's. Because I would have loved to have been on board the moment my son's test scores started coming out, because I think had I been, especially second grade on, I could have helped push it in a different direction, where I would have known. And one of the things the letter states is, and I can tell you because I have it right here, it's a great opportunity for parents and family members to sit down and review students' progress together and make educational plans for the next year. And that comes to my next thing, why I'm like, gosh knows I'm the most vocal person now. A lot of people don't understand that there are different things that can be done for their children. I had no idea. I've been flying blind. This is going on my 9th year. Thank God we're done with this. I had to fight tooth and nail to get my son into a math class that he could never believe that he wasn't put in. So to take a step further, to not just to thank you for giving us this, but also to start being a little bit more open or forthcoming, or even hear or acknowledge that people do, or at least I did. I wanted to be a part of my son's education and help him, because I do see that my job as a parent. I don't think I'm really alone. So thank you for opening the door to at least.
Any other comments? All right. We'll move on to the Police Building Committee. Mr. Robertson.
Yes, thank you. Am I good for you?
You can come join us if you'd like, or if you want to stay back there, you're welcome to sit.
It's not your first time at a table. First time to walk out of the table in here.
Good evening. I'm here representing a subcommittee that's been appointed by the Board of Selectmen in town to look at potential sites for construction of a new police department, analyze the need that we have for a new police department, and look at potential sites. And just to give you a little bit of background, we're down to about a half a dozen sites that we think might be viable for the construction of a new police department. Oh, okay. We're down to about a half a dozen sites, maybe one or two more than that we think might be viable for use as a site for a new police department. One of those sites is the school district-owned property, tax map 418, lot 81, which is probably better known in town as the old JCR property that borders Stage Road and Middle Road at the junction just below the fairground. There's about 75.8 acres there, as I'm sure you're all aware. It caught our eye because the school district purchased it in 2001. Nothing has been done with the property since 2001. It has about a quarter mile of paved road that runs up the middle of it. It's fairly hard packed, a lot of ledge in there, but certainly suitable for building, maybe a slab building as opposed to a full basement building. There are some other improvements in there. There are conduit for underground wiring. I believe there are some fire cisterns that have been put in there when the property was originally intended to be a 13 or 14 house subdivision. But the long and short of it is the committee is looking at all these sites. We have a very defined criteria that we're applying to each site to determine whether we include it as we move forward or whether we discard it from the list. And obviously, having identified this piece of property, probably the biggest criteria that we have is A, would the school district consider transferring, however that's possible, that property or a portion of that property? Probably, to be a little more exact, we're more interested in approximately 5 acres of the property than we are 75 acres of it. But the committee sent me forward to inquire whether the school board would be interested in transferring a portion of that property to the town for municipal use. And the flip side of that is the mechanics that would be involved in that. I know RSA 194.3 enables school districts to purchase property for further educational use. Doesn't say anything about disposing of the property. There are a couple of other RSAs in the 199 family that allow schools to, for lack of a better word, abandon property that they're not using, such as schoolhouses and locations, to the town or city. And in fact, if you do actually surplus or vacate a property, I think it by default goes to the town or city. That's probably not the best mechanism, but I'm not exactly sure how it would work. And I certainly didn't expect an answer this evening, but wanted to put a bug in your ear on behalf of the committee. We are trying to move forward as quickly as we can in identifying and or eliminating parcels from our list. For those not aware, Zach is also a member of the Police Department Building Committee and may well have given you a little insight as to what we're looking for, but that's what I wanted to present to the board tonight. And I'd be happy to take back any immediate comments you have, and if not, please leave you with our wishes.
Do you have a specific part of the land you guys are interested in, or is it that's a 70+ acre piece of land?
Right. Yeah, as I mentioned, it's a 75.8 acre parcel. The roadway, there's a quarter mile of paved road presently. The roadway extends on gravel past that, actually drops down and borders the Lamprey River, doesn't quite make it to Route 107 on the other side. I don't know that we identified a specific location. Clearly, we'd be more interested in main road access and being visible to the public than not. So I would think, we're interested in being close to Stage Road, at that junction of 43 and 107.
I think also just for the board's understanding, that committee is looking at a lot of options. So a couple of the other ones that are being considered would be across from the Dorothy White building. There was a property up by, I'm going to call it Mr. Mike's until I die, but up by
The
Mr.
Penguin
Mike's.
Mart. Directly across the street from the Penguin Mart.
And there was a couple of other considerations that are much probably less likely. So this is just very much of where preliminary looking at options, so that when we go back to the community and the community asks, why didn't you look at this and why didn't you look at that, we also have answers for those questions.
Exactly. The options we're looking at range from refitting of existing structures to potential private property that might be available for purchase to the town-owned sites. And clearly, the committee is focusing on anything that's municipally or school district owned first, at least at this stage of the game. But as Zach mentioned, we're throwing it all in the mix and then applying our criteria to weed out what's actually viable and not. And with regard to the school district property, clearly if the school district has no interest in doing anything other than retaining that property for a future school, we can check it off the list pretty quickly.
Yeah. Nate?
I think to a great extent we're all in this town, in this situation together, in that our population's growing, and that's presenting a number of challenges. We're currently, we have the Space Needs Committee. We're trying to figure out whether our current school facilities is going to continue to fit all of our students as they continue to increase. As a town, there is this mechanism of the CIP, sort of how we go about increasing or planning for this capital improvement that's going to have to happen with our increasing population. I guess my question is, if your timeline, would it be far enough out where we could start to actually maybe get a larger group of the town together to and I don't know what this process would look like, but is there some sort of like a strategic planning process? When was the last time our town did it, and could we be involved in a really sort of collective effort to figure out what we've done a demographic study of what we're predicting our population to look like, but as a town, as a number of different boards get together and try to make some sort of a larger plan that might fit all these pieces together in some way.
I think there's surely the opportunity to do that. I will tell you what we're up against, at least what the Board of Selectmen feel they're up against with regard to the police department, is we've got about 1,200 square feet in a very substandard police department right now. By looking at international police standards and some other planning documents that have been reviewed, it's pretty clear that we probably should be somewhere between 4,800 square feet and 6,000 square feet, with a number of distinct features that are required in modern police departments that we don't have. As I've said, we're right around 1,200. Most of the officers have supplied their own decor, so to speak, furniture, that sort of thing in there. We came to this committee, the building planning committee, out of the New Hampshire Listens program that was conducted in 2017. There were a number of recommendations about community involvement that came out of the New Hampshire Listens program. The culminating closure to that was that the community feels there is a need for a police department, probably more than an entire safety services complex, and that the community would prefer to see a Yankee solution. The select board is a little bit at odds about what a Yankee solution might be, and that same concern has come up at the police department building committee when we've discussed the New Hampshire Listens report and what actually a Yankee solution might be. We have a couple of ideas in mind, but I guess at this point we're seeing the need to try to move forward with the police department, and given the past history with regard to safety services complex, we think that we stand a better chance and that there's a bigger need with regard to the police department at this point. Clearly we would look to any location that we're looking at, the potential to expand, probably not off of the specific building, but on the specific site for safety service needs, is indeed a consideration. But I think we're really at the beginning of the process here, and as I said, we have a specific set of criteria that we're applying to each option that we've identified in the committee, and we want to be able to come back to the community and say, you know, we looked at all the options. These were the ones that clearly were not viable, and very rough stage with regard to this property. We've taken a look at it. It's got some appeal, but it's clearly not going to be viable if the school board has no interest in parting with the property or any portion thereof. So that's what I'm hoping to discern before we move forward.
I think it would be the responsibility of the school board to confer with our legal representation in regards to how anything would happen, so that it's clear in terms of the process. What do you guys have a timeline at this point? Or?
We don't have an exact timeline. Initially, we had talked about this budget cycle. I'm not sure if that's possible, given the stage we're at, and in just general terms. In fact, it's quite likely not possible. So, I would envision that in this budget cycle, we would like to identify some options, look for, possibly design and engineering funding to move forward to the next budget cycle. And that's just, very rough seat of the pants where the plan is.
So I guess the question would be, sense of the board in regards to asking our legal counsel to research what would be required in order for something like this to happen. Not saying that we're in favor of it or against it, or is the sense of the board that we don't want to even go that step?
I'm happy to look into it, yeah. I'm happy to get more information about it.
I think we can discuss it, and I think talking to legal counsel is a big next step.
Could you reach out to Dean and ask him? We'll get back to you when we've heard from our legal counsel.
Okay, great. And in the meanwhile, if you decide you'd like to do some horse trading, we have some fine swampy parcels around the pond over to the right here that we'd be happy to talk about. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
All right. Thank you, Andy. Next on our agenda, Fire Department. Mr. Fisher. What can we do for you?
Well, I guess I came on the right night, because I'm here about the St. Chris property. But I'm more interested in asking permission to pursue looking into adding a landing zone and utilizing part of that roadway.
Make sure you speak up, please.
So I guess I'll back up. In town, we have a limited number of landing zones for medical helicopter. Most of those are seasonal, if you will, fields or some sort of parking lot, like the dirt parking lot out here is one of our landing zones. During the day, during the school, not an ideal location, cars are there. A lot of fields, there's 3 fields which are identified as landing zones in the town. Wintertime, a lot of snow, access really won't work. Been looking at possibly seeing if we could utilize part of that roadway for a landing zone, if we could work on getting it maintained and get a gate of some sort, because I know there's some blockage there now to prevent people from driving up there. So there's some things to work out, but I didn't know if that was something the school board would be interested in allowing the fire department or fire rescue to pursue. Only need about 100 by 100 area. Paved is certainly preferred. So that's why I'm here.
So this is the most interest we've had in that piece of property.
May I?
Sure, go ahead.
So, your intentions would be to maintain the road in the wintertime, to maintain that designated area, keep it clear of snow and all that stuff?
I feel that fall upon the town or the fire rescue department. If you will.
Somebody.
Yes.
But to keep that open.
Yes.
And then you're just looking to be able to establish that spot and use it for the foreseeable future.
Yes. Unknown would ever come out of the previous discussion.
And the development that would be required would just be some clearing, essentially, to 100 by 100, or what else? What other development would be required?
So I printed off some Google shots of the area, so if a couple people want to share. So there's what it looks like as you drive in the roadway. There's basically there's an opening in there, which at least with the paved area would be large enough for the helicopter to land. And the 100 by 100 is more for them being able to come in and go out. And I think with that roadway would be an excellent way for them to come in and then take off. So yeah, we probably have to take out the little bit of trees and stuff like that that have overgrown. some sort of gate by Stage Road, whether or not it's, something that's, kind of very early stages, but didn't want to kind of put the cart before the horse if it's not something the board would be in favor of.
But so, correct, it sounds like minimal development, a gate, clearing out some of the brush, not taking down a large number of trees, so just using the space that's already there effectively.
And it would actually be maintaining access to the land which currently is non-accessible to a certain extent.
Yep.
So it would be, the fire department would be maintaining access.
So are you looking for like a permanent transfer of part of the property or
No, just permission to use it.
permission to use it?
Yeah, at this point, or permission to, for me to look into it. Or since it's your property, I don't want to step on any toes.
And who would assume the liability?
That's probably something we'd have to work out.
Um,
I don't know where that stands for even using the one out here in the parking lot. It's just on record as a landing zone for the community.
well, we're already talking to legal counsel about the property.
Excellent.
Could we, if the board wishes, should we just add questions about the ramifications of doing something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
You
So we
know,
will
honestly,
ask-
if I need to land a helicopter somewhere,
Do it anyway.
it's going to be landed.
You're doing it regardless.
Do it anyway.
But more of a permanent location that would be maintained, year round would certainly be ideal.
Okay. And we'll ask about how it would possibly happen.
Awesome.
Maybe it takes a bit of time for them to get back to us.
Yeah, understood.
Any questions for the chief?
Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda review.
No.
Yes, we need to reopen assigned roles for board members. No. Oh, excuse me, we're not jumping ahead of us. Parks and Rec, sorry. Usually I don't see police, fire, and Parks and Rec. The selectmen here. Parks and Rec, who's here for Parks and Rec? If you'd like to join us, come on up. What can we do for you?
All right, so Nick Lawrence, Parks and Rec Director, here with that NFL after-school program director. So we're
Please speak up, because you have people behind you that can't hear.
Maybe I should just go over here. Okay, so we're primarily here to inquire about potential space within the school to potentially house a satellite location for after school. We're kind of looking ahead, and we, at some point soon, we're going to have an assessment as far as capacity goes with our rooms in the building. And with that in consideration, we think there's a fair chance that we may, in order to be in accordance with the fire code, we might need to slim down our numbers that we keep in the building, especially during the winter time where we can't house everybody inside. So with that said, we're looking into different options that we could potentially explore in order to sustain our numbers that we have and potentially field more kids in a growing program. So I was just looking to see what your thoughts, suggestions might be, if there is space potentially that could be had in the school.
Do you guys have a proposal that you'd like to, do you have a space in the school that you're interested in?
Yeah, speaking to Deb, I think we're thinking more open concept. We don't want to interfere with classrooms or anything if we can avoid it, because it is housing the kids after school, and it would be our staff that would oversee it as well. So if I'm not sure what happens in the cafeteria, if that's an opportunity for us. Most of the things that we do like to house the kids outside when possible. So weather permitting, we'd be outside all the time anyway. But if anything's open in regards to the cafeteria, the gym, sports are happening, especially in the winter, so that's not really a plausible location. If there are any suggestions that anybody can offer, we'd be open to listening, because we're definitely looking to house as many kids as we can going forward.
So, you have a question? I have a bunch. Okay. Go right ahead.
So,
Speak up.
all right, so last year, how many students did you have in the program?
129,
Okay, where are you currently enrolled with right now?
90,
You have a waiting list?
I do,
How big?
33,
How many?
33.
33.
So you're +4 from last year. Do you know when the fire chief's gonna get you your response?
So,
Kind of why I went there.
working with the fire marshal's office on how the George B. White itself should be classified in regards to the fire code, and in particular, the part where, the bottom part, if you will, that's used by parks. Whether or not that's considered an educational facility, if it falls under those codes, or what is the most applicable. So it's in process.
Do you know when you'll have that determination, Mr. Fire Chief?
I'd like to say by the end of the week, but
Next week sometime?
that's my expectation.
All right, you have staffing currently beyond what do you have enough staffing to house additional students?
Currently, no. That's in process. As it's well documented, I'm sure in town people have been talking, that, there's a huge need for it. So looking past that, we want to be able to house everybody that could possibly have a need for it. So once staffing is settled, which we hope will be in the near future, it'd be nice to have an extra location.
Did you guys know that you were going to be reduced from 120 to 90?
We did not. That's
Based on our staffing, that was where we had to cap it.
So it's a staffing challenge that,
It's both, just knowing that we have when the fire marshal came through this past summer, we knew that we were gonna get hit with a room capacity, and we just wanna make sure that we're easier to add kids if we can than to already have the kids in the program and have to take them away if we're told we can't have that many kids in the house.
so the feedback from the community has been there were a lot of people who found out or were put on a wait list and didn't know until the last minute they weren't coming off. I guess they had expected to come off the wait list.
I mean, that's our goal, I want everyone to be on. My numbers were wrong. We had 139 registered last year, and with people that were on the wait list, people that left the program, moved out of town, the number of families that were registered in total for the school year was 146. Obviously, there was never that. We averaged probably 90, high 90s last school year, which was tight in that building, really tight. But we had them in, we couldn't say no.
And you're currently at 90 now for this year, so it's comparable numbers to last year with a reduced staff.
And about how many are we sending over every day?
We're averaging right
receiving?
now under 60, probably 50, 55, I think, 6, somewhere around there.
Is the families pre-registered in advance the week before, right? My understanding of the workflow is you register for the program. You register basically for the season to the extent of.
So you pay the $30 reg fee, and that allows you to use the program through the entire school year.
Okay.
Whether you use it once throughout the school year or every day throughout the school year, you are able to get into that spot. I know that on the rec desk, some of the spots show as a wait list, but I always get those kids off that wait list.
Okay.
Because they are pre-registered and have done.
So, is your staffing only allowing 60 right now, or will your staffing accept the 90 that you had registered?
We could handle it.
You could handle. So there is room for, on average, it sounds like an additional 30 kids daily.
Again, that's depending upon what our numbers are. That's the number of kids that we have registered. We have never seen every child that's registered come.
Right.
But it could happen. It could definitely happen. My staffing right now includes Nick, Kevin, myself. We had 12 staff last year. We're down to 4 at 2 o'clock. So that's, when the kids arrive, we have another one that comes, and then we have staggering staff after that, high school kids. But we're down a lot of staff. We lost 5, for various reasons, college, other job opportunities. I mean, that's what happens. They just kind of, age out, move on.
So I don't quite, you guys are asking if there's the possibility of using the space, but there's no concrete ask here.
So here's what I see. What I would like to see happen, and again, we have to secure our staffing first.
Right.
Is 4th grade and up stay here, and if I let all the kids in that are on the wait list, and what I currently have, that's 32 kids in grades 4th and up, 4th through 6th. That's the group that I would like to, when we get there, have stay here at the school and use perhaps the cafeteria. They all have homework to do, they can go and watch after-school activities that are going on, games, soccer, whatever season it is, and then at George B. White, keep the K for free moving.
If it's okay with the board, I'd like to invite the athletic director to join the conversation as she manages the keys of, is that okay with the administration? Cindy, do you have, you don't have to come up here, but Cindy manages the schedule of the school facilities through a large part, so I want you to be part of this conversation.
So do you want to speak to my proposal that I made, or do you want to ask the question?
Well, Cindy had done a proposal that spec'd out the possibility that the cafeteria could be open. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Okay, so when all of this conversation started happening and you get conversation from everybody around, I was like, okay, my brain started going, where would that work? How would that work? How would that look in our building with everything that gets scheduled? So as many of you know, this building is scheduled after school for various things, you know, from our own staff to Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, all that kind of stuff, you know, that sports. So I had looked at two different options. The option that I thought would work the best would be the cafeteria, because then you'll have minimal impact on the building. The numbers, I didn't know the numbers, that was one of my questions, was to have a question, how many, was it 20, was it 60, I didn't know. Easy access to the playground, that was my other plus. Parent pick up at the back door, just trying not to have people constantly in and out of the building and in teachers' classrooms, because we're in our classrooms a lot. And people don't realize that, I think, but we are here. The other part of that was also, we have things that happen in the cafeteria. So we have our after-school enrichment program. We have Girl Scouts, so in Maggie's exercise class, so certain things. So I think those things can all be worked into different spaces. If we go with questions like in the cafeteria, then it would have to be, like, there's all kinds of, you know, all kinds of things that have to happen. Like, who's responsible, who's going to clean, who's, you know, that kind of stuff. Supervision. But that was just kind of why I landed there, with knowing what else happens in the school.
Okay.
And there used to be an after-school program in the cafeteria. I know when I moved in 2008, isn't the Y? There's one running out of the cafeteria, so.
They rented space.
Yeah. None of that is in my radar, so that's good.
So what I would like to see is you guys come with an actual proposal. You know, you talked around the cafeteria space and you've gotten some numbers, but you know, how many staff are you going to have? Who's going to do the cleaning? What does it look like?
This is very.
Are you asking for a waiver?
We currently have one of our after-school staff who's a 5-day week. He works here at the school. He would stay here after school, go to the cafeteria, get the kids from there. We'd have another adult staff. We'd have 2 adult staff every day. We would then supply either some staff aides, which are the high school kids, and or some of the younger adult kids. And they would be responsible for the kids. The kids would come to them just like they do, you know, they house them in the gym right now when they're cycling through the buses. They would go to the cafeteria, they would do their study. We would set up, obviously, activities for them. They wouldn't just be running free. We have a structured program over at George B. White. They would be responsible for the cleanup, 100%.
So supplies and materials and everything else. Obviously, you have a paid program that generates.
We would have everything.
So is that something Parks and Rec would be providing their own supplies? They'd be providing, and as far as cleaning and wear and tear and usage on the building, it would be.
Is there a space to store that sort of materials here?
There's no space. You guys would have to bring that back and forth.
Again, we could do that.
It depends on how much stuff you're talking. You know what I mean? Like, that would have to be a consideration. The other flexible thing I forgot to mention before was also we have some big events that happen. So on those days they would have to clean the space, like the blood drive, that kind of thing.
So I have a question. What happens with your winter camps?
Our winter camps are completely separate.
Okay.
from the after-school program.
So you can limit the number of kids that come and go from the winter camps as you please? Because a lot of times we'll plan maintenance for large spaces for when.
We wouldn't use during breaks at all, ever. We would do all our winter camps over at, George B. White, like we always have. It's a much smaller group for those camps. And that's open to anybody, it's not just exclusive to kids in the after-school program, that's anybody in town.
On a related note, those snow days, how would you guys handle the snow days? Because now you have to have somebody here, or we have to have somebody here to
Close. They match us. You guys close when there's a snow.
We absolutely follow, we close,
just wanted to clarify.
early release days, we take the kids, but again, we would follow the same, it's just 2 hours earlier. Staff would be here to take responsibility for those kids as soon as they're dismissed. And the staff that I would have in charge over here is definitely one of our top supervisors. I mean, it's not just somebody who's done the program for a year, he's been with us for over 5 years. So he knows the program, he knows the kids, he knows, and I can bounce back and forth to just trying to come up with a solution for all the families that currently have no place to send their kids.
I respect that, and we have a kind of a, Cindy took time out of her day to write a proposal that would possibly work. I wish I had something in writing from you guys that there's been a lot of stuff, and I wish you had written it down, like who's going to be, how many kids, who the people are, how many people are monitoring the kids, the space you want, so that we could have this, so we can check it off.
Would you want anything additional on receiving that kind of documentation?
I'd be curious. I mean, we're sort of running kind of an after-school, trying to run an after-school thing of our own, and I'd be curious to hear and to think about it. Maybe if we took a couple weeks before our next meeting to try to make a more concrete plan, could we actually put the two together? Could we somehow join, our efforts and keep some of the older kids here? I think it's a great idea. I have questions about are you guys more of a private entity or a public entity? Or you're part of the town, so we're part of the, I'm happy to, figure all that out, but I'd be curious about those kinds of questions about the cost and all that stuff. But really, we're trying to do the same thing as you guys are, so maybe if we came up with something together, there's got to be a way to make this work.
When I started talking about it, we said the same, the enrichment programs that y'all offer here after school, I have a lot of families that will probably send them. I think they would definitely merge together and could work.
So if we're looking at 2 weeks down to the next meeting, if there was time to maybe meet with somebody from the school about coordinating that would be, I think, that could be a really strong argument for making this happen.
We also have insurance questions. Maybe we do, maybe we don't, but who bears the burden of insurance in this case?
We would need a certificate of liability, just like any other emergency.
Do we already have it for Parks and Rec for the other activities?
I would think we would, because of the winter sports issue. Whether how easy that is, whether or not we can do it, we should do our due diligence and review it. But I would think that's already.
I am. So I'm open to the thought, but
I'm sorry.
I'm very open to the thought. I do think we needed a little bit more from Parks and Rec coming in here, what your actual ask was, because I don't think we've still seen. What are you asking for? What do you want? Like you haven't.
Do you want this space tomorrow? Do you want the space in 2 weeks? Do you want
The space where we secure staffing? Are you going to pay to use the space like any other organization would? Are you asking us to waive fees? What do you want?
Fair enough.
So I mean that's.
We understand there's an urgency to it, but we need the I's crossed and the T's dotted.
Got it.
So you're going to come with a written proposal to us, or
That's what we'll plan to do, yes.
okay? We're absolutely open to a proposal.
Sure.
And I know that there are challenges that come with a lot of people being on the wait list, and there are something else I wanted to talk about that pertains to this, because a lot of families were going to the after school, which is town associated. There are private after school programs that have started to fill the gap. And we have heard that the transportation is becoming quite a bit of a challenge. Our school has never provided transportation to after school programs except for the town-run one. So there is a major challenge when somebody sets up a private after-school program and has a large number of kids trying to add them to one individual bus. The bus company has a contract with us that is based on the addresses of the home addresses of the students,
Or Parks and Rec.
and Parks and Rec at the beginning of the year, and changing that on the fly is not part of the contract. So that's not necessarily pointed at you.
True.
That's that's a challenge that the bus company Dale has limits in terms of the number of kids they can move between buses. Sure.
I did speak to Kelly today, and just as you were saying, if all the kids showed up at your program, you would be at capacity, right? So on Friday, she had 77 kids on that bus. That's full capacity. So we can't, and we don't know until kids are loading the bus. Do you have room for one? Do you have room for two? Can we fit four? So that's really, it's caused a lot of.
And that was because Concord High didn't have school. And in the past, they've never put all of our kids on one bus.
It's two buses.
It's supposed to be two. Supposed to be two. Well, one bus twice.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not what happened. That wasn't the Concord situation. So I'm just stating, that's just what's happening. We can't. The kid get on a bus this afternoon that said, if there's room, she can ride on this bus. If there's not, she has to take this bus home. And we can't.
We can't do that.
No,
no,
we just can't.
We can't have that. I mean, the kids need to know that they can get where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Where they're supposed to be is home, or
Right.
basically Parks and Rec.
And our first priority is ridership on that bus. Who's supposed to be on that bus? So I'm only looking at you.
So
I'm not
if
picking on you at all.
If there are private after-school programs that have started, the school does not facilitate transportation to us, and never has.
I got a question.
You
I can ask a question? Oh. I've never been to one of these, so I don't know how they work.
Sorry, this is, it's board members and the Parks and
Okay,
Rec folks.
all right. I didn't get all the rules.
One other, I guess, just note while you're here next is I believe you owe Mr. Grieve a meeting. So can you facilitate that and make sure that happens sooner than later?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, with Mr. Green.
Huh?
With Mr. Green.
Oh, yes, and Mr. Green. But I believe you're due to sit down with them, so please ensure that happens.
Will do.
So Deb and Nick, do you guys have a sense of what we're looking for, or?
I'm just looking for a space. Kids would get dismissed. They would come to the cafeteria.
Right.
They would get signed in. We would be responsible for those kids up until 6 o'clock.
Right.
We wouldn't use any other area of the building.
Which we're fine with. We just need a proposal that details all of what's going on with that.
Something we can hold you guys to. Something that we can hold you to as well.
Any other questions for Parks and Rec? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we are on to agenda review. I would like to add reassignment of board roles based on the resignation of Shelley Tetra to, what do we want to put that under?
Continuing business?
Continuing business. No, it's immediate business. So it'll be H. Anything else to change or edit on the agenda?
at some point, and maybe this isn't the meeting, and I'm open to the board's consensus, but these last three discussions have all been about the growing size of our town. Our school is at capacity. I feel like putting a more urgent emphasis on what we're going to do next year if the growth patterns continue. I feel like we should start talking about that. And so I don't know if that's the beginning now of a discussion that goes throughout the rest of the year or tries to get something on the budget.
What are our immediate needs?
It's not even necessarily, I mean, I think, yes, but also, like, I think we're managing, it seems like barely we're managing, but I'm afraid of next fall. And I feel like looking ahead, we should start to think about what's going to happen in the fall if it continues the way it's going. And so, I don't know what...
How are your numbers?
We have 555 students.
So this is just an agenda item, and then we can talk about, I don't know, but where do we want to put it? Do we want to put it in the agenda or not?
Yes.
So, where does it go?
That includes.
Let's, why don't we talk about it under the building committee report?
I think we can do that.
Which is supposed to be the space needs committee. Right. So, I think that's the most appropriate spot for that.
Okay. Anything else on the agenda we'd like to add or change?
I have informational items for you when we get there.
Okay. Do we have any consent items? Board reports, PTO, Tina St. Peter.
Just a few things. Fundraiser brochures will be going home next Friday. Townwide yard sale that is happening this year. The sign-ups for that will be coming on the information break for that. Doing room parent sign-ups, that would be in the break as well. Posting for that on the school Facebook and YouTube page. Spherical contest is back on for this year. That's October 22nd through the 25th. And we've decided to hold all of the PTO meetings in the evenings now instead of the after school. They'll be 6 o'clock. They're on the school calendar in the evenings. Try to make it easier for them sometimes.
Any questions?
Well, I just think it's important for us to acknowledge and thank the PTO for all their help with the barbecue.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank
All
you,
the members of the PTO.
Executive board report. That's new. We did have an executive board meeting, even though we, on the official calendar, didn't schedule one. We did convene to discuss the need for finding a payroll specialist. And there was an immediate need for that position as our budget department up there was severely understaffed. So the board approved approved moving forward with that. Principals report.
All right. Our DCS current enrollment, 555 including preschool. Our preschool numbers, for our 3-year-old program we have 19 students, and in our 4-year-old program we have 23 students. I do have the number of IEP students to reflect that. We also have 5 pending preschool referrals, so we're not getting any smaller.
Last year, do you have that number for last year, or was it 5?
We were
517?
519, 517.
At the end of the school year, we were around 520.
Would that have been with preschool, or would
That would have been with.
We're doing year over year. Well, that's an enormous. The most, somebody said the largest that they've ever seen the school is 563, and that was with 3 modulars outside. And we have 2, so we are tighter now than we have ever been.
We have no more.
Okay.
Sounds like we had no more space about 50 kids ago. 50 kids ago.
I heard you have a personal brand.
It's quite popular.
To give you an ALMA update, our new student information system, we appreciate the patience of parents. Assignments have not been able to be posted yet. Where our fine administrative assistant over there, Mrs. Davitt, has been working tirelessly to get it updated and cleaned up, and we've got emergency information going out pretty soon. Teachers have been teaching each other how to use the program. If they figure something out, they'll pull and the other teachers to show them what they found. So it's still being worked on and updated daily. Every day is a new adventure when it comes to Alma. Some people can do attendance, some people can't. So we're still working through the bugs of that. Emergency operation plan. We'll be meeting tomorrow with Denny Gregg, and actually Matt Fisher will be there, and any other community members that have been invited, and a couple of staff members. We did get the New Hampshire Department of Labor report that has everything you would have on it. It was for the entire SAU, and we do have 30 days to act on it. So we'll be pulling together with Mike to figure out what can we act on, what are we going to wait for. We had the fire marshal team as well with Matt to do our tour of the building. He had other things to add to it, or I guess what the Department of Labor was saying. I do have,
So is that was kind of like an audit or something, and the state came in and looked at specifically our emergency preparedness? Can you specify what that? I'm sorry.
I switched things on this. So the emergency operation plan, that's different.
Okay.
This is the New Hampshire Department of Labor that came in and toured the building to find out what areas, if you have the sprinkler system, you have to have things 18 inches away from the sprinkler system. If you have a carpet in your classroom or a cushion, it has to be sprayed with fire retardant. And then we're also being told by the fire department not to spray it because it releases harmful chemicals. So we're balancing these two departments and trying to figure out what's the best thing. And we have to run a school. So with kids in it that need, places to be. So those are two separate things. I kind of matched them together. Brian and I sat with Mike Greenwood to get an idea of what kinds of things he's working on. I will have a typed up list with quotes for you for the next board meeting. But some of the things he's looking at is getting a quote for the duct vent in the kitchen. The well system and the septic system were both worked on this summer. So he has the well was about $3,000, and the septic he's waiting for the bill to come in for that. There was some conversation about the roof, replacing sections of the roof. He said the two flat wings are going to be needing some attention real soon. So he was going to be having somebody to come to take a look at that to give you a quote on that. The stair treads, he did get a quote for the stair treads that need to be replaced. That's about $5,000 times 4 stairs. So we're looking at about $20,000 to have that done. And then he did throw out there the fire panel that we've been told might need to be replaced soon. I don't know, 20 years old is it? I don't.
Yes, essentially the building is built and is essentially obsolete.
Is there the FEMA grant money or any kind of grant money for like the security that we did for the cameras? Right, might be able to. Okay.
Is that the costly? He said
10,000, but Patty was saying that there's in Pembroke cost even more. They're expensive. And then we continue the conversation about replacing all the toilets, upgrading all the toilets with getting rid of the not residential. It's their residential toilets now.
Yes, we'll put commercial.
Commercial, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
I think you guys could speak up.
Sorry.
Normally isn't anybody here to listen.
Does anybody want to hear more about residential toilets? So those are some of the things that are on my Greenwood's list, and like I said, we'll have quotes and we'll have it printed up, typed up for you for the next time. Bob Layton was working tirelessly this summer. I have a whole list of things that he worked on, including installing of the new 30 camera system in the school, renaming all the student network and Google accounts, email addresses and resetting passwords. He installed a new main server in the network, and then it goes on to with all kinds of letters and numbers and R730s and Intels and Xerons. And if you're interested in that, I have that written down for you. He installed a new network operating system called Open Enterprise Server that replaced the Novell system on our desktops. Upgraded the Zen server to the Zen 2017. Installed Windows 10 on the network. Upgraded the McAfee network antivirus server. I'll give you this list, Candy. Set up 65 new Chromebooks and 2 new Chromebook carts. So he was very busy, and he says this isn't even the half of it that he got accomplished this summer, but I thought it would be important for you to hear about all the things that he did this summer, because he worked really long hours and got a lot done for us, upgraded a lot for us.
Excellent.
So I thought he needed a shout out. And then our back to school breakfast was phenomenal. We had French toast and what was that? Hakamaka? Bakalaka?
Crazy.
Rutabaga? something, I don't know. Paula came up with some dish with eggs and feta and vegetables and everybody tried it, or they had a no thank you bite. And Patty was here serving. It was great. It was a great way to bring the whole staff in on that Tuesday. We started on Monday with faculty, and then the whole staff was here on Tuesday. So it was a great breakfast and a great back to school. And the only hiccup has been, just the bus situation, trying to figure out how to best handle that situation. So other than that, we're good.
The Alma system, general sense, still positive?
Still positive. It's like any time you transfer over one information system to another. I mean, we're hearing that Concord's having issues with their Power School right now. So, and they kept Power School, which is like there's a new version, so they're having bugs. So, yeah, it's just growing pains. So, the basic element of it looks good and it's working. So it's just all like the nitty gritty, like Candy doing reports and trying to figure out shortcuts to do things, and so it's just the growing pains. We'll feel comfortable within the next few weeks doing everything. That's my gut right now.
Yep. Jim? Yes. So just a couple of things. Or I guess two things. One of them is board related. But if we're going to have that list available at the next meeting, should we schedule a public hearing so that we can actually act on it and discuss drawing the funds from the trust at that meeting, or do you want to see the list, wait 2 weeks?
Right. Why don't we schedule a public hearing about an hour after we convene our meeting? So 7 o'clock?
With the public hearing, you need to notice how much you're taking. It's we've typically you can authorize going ahead with the work to be done, and then we have a public hearing about withdrawing funds from the trust. And when we notice that in the paper, we have to list the amount that we're withdrawing. So it's typically either when it's done or then the work is the estimates are set in stone.
So we can act.
You don't have to do
We
it
can
yet.
act next week, and
then have the hearing 2 weeks later.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to keep that ball
Yeah.
rolling. The other thing you mentioned about the 555 students, and I don't know if you've seen it yet, but we have this worksheet that comes up at budget time every year that shows us projected enrollment in classrooms and everything else. Is it possible to maybe revise that sooner than later so that we can
reflect this year?
To reflect this year, so we can get a real idea of what we're looking at. It gives us head counts for classrooms and everything else, because it sounds like we're getting heavy in a lot of places. And
Our kindergartens are 15 each.
okay.
So.
Yeah. And so we're at 60 then.
Yeah.
Kindergarten.
Our largest class right now is 4th grade and 67.
Wow.
And
Have you ever had a class bigger than 70?
No, not since I've been here.
So that 4th grade class is 3 rooms.
They are 4 classrooms.
4 rooms.
They were 3 third grades last year.
We've pushed that bubble up through and kind of kept them what they kept sliding teachers up with that group.
But there are no small grades behind them.
No, that's what is most concerning is our current 8th grade class is.
Yeah, currently like grade 64, 63.
So that's another large group.
So 7th grade is the last small grade.
Right, yep, and then we go down to first, 3rd grade is around 48, 49.
It's a small-ish
That's a
grade.
small-ish, yeah.
So I guess if we can just get that one document updated sooner than later, so we can at least just start getting a better visual of what's going on, because we were projecting, I think, 530 last year. Is that the number? Does that sound right?
Sounds right.
530. We were expecting 5 to 10 kids.
Right, and we're up
20 to 30 kids.
Yeah, we're up 30. So I guess I just want to start seeing that a little sooner than this.
One put that by grade? Is that
We have a document.
Brian has,
I'll show you.
Okay.
Brian can find it, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
We'll see if we can find out how to see if we can around some training.
Nate? Are you at a place where you can speak to the website a little bit? The website's kind of been shifting a little bit, and are you aware of what the current status is and just kind of an update of what's going on with the website?
I know Jackie Turner had a photographer here taking some pictures. I don't know what the current is. Beyond that, I don't know. I know she was in to talk to the office staff about things that would be helpful for them.
Okay.
That's Jim. I don't know if you have a better idea.
The last time I talked to her, she said that she was confident that she would be able to roll out the new website within a month.
Okay.
Filling the content on all the individual pages is going to be the slow part.
Okay.
So the framework and the functionality will be there.
Okay.
But the asking everybody to write the content is going to be the challenge.
In the meantime, are we still updating the current website, or is that sort of on hold? So that one is being updated. That's the functional. That is the current real-time website until the other one goes live. Okay. Okay.
So we're going to have a new website, everybody.
I'll have an update for you though. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Principal Libby? Thank you. Your first principal's report. Good job. Very good. Curriculum Review Board, Mr. Oxnard.
We haven't met yet. We're meeting next week or the week after.
All right. Space Needs Committee, Building Committee report. Ken, you want to lead this one off?
I think I'm the only one left.
There we go.
So,
What do we do?
yeah, we started to brainstorm about what we should look at first, but it's becoming quite apparent. I think the next, so we don't have an update for any activity that we've done here recently, but going forward, I think the next steps of however we divide this work up, completely reassignment of roles, it's apparent that we need to get a handle on the enrollment numbers versus the population growth of the area, and see what trends or what projections that they put together, and feel comfortable with. We need to identify those data sources and what we're going to use. I would like to see at least a 10-year look back for numbers.
I have that.
I'm sure we do. I'm sure we have it somewhere. But I would like to go.
I don't think we're going to steady growth curve.
We don't know. It could be argued either way. I personally wouldn't go one way or the other right now.
Right.
But we need to identify the data sources that we're going to pull in other projections, like for the county. You know, what scale are we going to look at? We're going to look at state. We're going to look at county. We're going to look at SNU. I think we should look at actually all of those to see the local trends.
Right.
But also time frames. So we're going to project 3 years out, 5 years out. I think it's pretty standard. It's just like 3, 5, and 10, or 3, 5, and 7, or something like that. So we just need to start to agree on the framework that we're going to look at and the data sources that we're going to pull in. And once we have those, then we can start plugging numbers. So, Dave?
I guess one of my concerns is that projections are important, but at the same time, I feel like we're already over capacity. So, like, it's now.
Right.
And so, like I said, I feel like September is only a few months away, and the budget season is only a few months away. So I wonder whether, are we at the point where the safety of our kids is getting compromised, where the education of our kids is getting compromised because we've got too many kids in this building. And so if that's the case, if we're there now, then we need to start thinking about what's going to happen, what's going to be different in September. Because I bet we're going to have more kids than 555 in September. And so given that, like, budget's right around the corner, do we need to put something in to actually get another modular or some sort of a short-term solution?
I think at the minimum, Nate's onto something there. Maybe we do need
Absolutely.
to start at least planning the budget.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that, and I think we need to run these concurrently because we don't want the short-term solution. If we added like another modular, which I'm not sure we can, we don't want to hold on to that for 20 years. But we obviously need a short-term solution. but that may be all we need. We may need to just get over the hump of fourth grade, get them through the next 4 years, and then, Jim's point, we may see a downward spiral. But if we don't, okay, then we know we would only potentially sign a 5-year lease on something or whatever, rather than,
So the
there's a lot of unknowns there.
The demographic study that we did commission did come back with some trends, and those trends showed that the population of Deerfield was going to grow at a steady rate, but that he expected the number of children in town to grow at a lower rate than the number of adults living in this town. I don't know if that's held true. We seem to be an anomaly within the SAU and within the state. So overall, the number of students in the whole state are decreasing, right?
Just not here.
Just not here. Something in the water. So immediate needs is you have immediate space needs.
So I think we need to look at our options for adding, I think on a very short-term basis, adding a modular. And so we need to have those options for budget season, which is now. I don't know the feasibility, but we're not grandfathered in for not having it tied into septic and all the other stuff. It has to be.
So I have a question. Since we have 2 modulars out there that are rather dated at this point, can you update existing modulars?
To bigger, bolder, newer, but still grandfathered in?
I don't think so. I think if you
As soon as you
bring
change
in a
it?
new modular, yes.
We need 2-story modulars, the same footprint. I know a guy with a crane.
If you want me to get official.
I would like to hear
information,
officially that
I
you
can do
cannot update modulars and
So-
still maintain their grandfathered status.
I think the other thing, if that being the case, I think the other thing we should do, and I think Mike Greenwood is going to be the first step in this, is we need to explore how or where we could position. Another modular does not have to be right there.
No.
Another
Not
modular can be elsewhere. So is there a way for us to set another one or 2 on site with the ability to tie it into our existing services?
Just that alone, having to tie into the existing utilities is going to limit where we can go. And you're right, Mike is the best resource to help
So,
plot out those.
not that Mike doesn't have any other assignments, but I think we should do it.
I mean, our budget didn't pass last year, and floating either a bond for a new building, which would probably be tens of millions of dollars.
I don't want to bite that apple yet.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet.
I don't think the community.
That wouldn't happen this year anyway.
Yeah.
We have to have a plan.
We'd have to have a plan.
If we even talk about it.
I know. I'm just saying that. I don't think there's.
That's 5 years away.
I don't think there's a taste for earliest.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
And that's 5 years away by the time you even get
Yep.
And that's why we
in
want to
engineering.
pursue that information, because we may not even have to go through.
Right, but I think on a short-term basis, we need to try to develop a plan to expand our footprint, and that really leaves us one option, which is portables.
Right. So
Nice looking portables.
the building committee reports, or the space needs committee, is now Ken.
So I have another thought on that.
Yes.
I think at this point, and seeing the struggle we've had with trying to get community members to jump into the fray with us on that, that we should bring the building committee back into the board, and the board should just schedule a work session periodically.
There are also about 25 people in the audience right now. Is anybody interested in becoming a member of the space needs committee? We have a member.
We have a volunteer?
Volunteer. All right. So there's a lot of work that goes into. I feel I have to warn people. There's a lot of work that goes into different committees, and this is one that's going to need a lot of work. We have a lot of challenges in front of us. I don't know your name.
I'm Christina Baker.
Christina Baker.
That would be
Now you
Christina
got-
Baker.
There you go. I really do think that we don't have the bandwidth to really drive this. I think we have to really reach out to the community and get people involved. We have 555 kids in this school. If you can't do it, ask somebody who can. Please reach out.
You want to throw it out there one more time?
We can put something in the bridge this week.
Yeah.
So,
What kind of background?
All right, Travis. Travis is in.
See, I reached out to them.
we've accomplished more in the last 3 minutes than what
See what happens when you come to a board meeting?
you get rolled with dope to do a bunch of work.
I will teach that.
There will be no background requirements, just the willing to do research now and discuss options objectively. So that's all we're going to ask at this point.
So we will please spread the word throughout the community that we really need people to work on this. This is an immediate need. Okay, so
Do we need to establish a clear mission or something? Like, what is our goal? Our goal is to get some sort of a.
the space needs committee
Yeah, we
is
done that. Okay.
to.
I feel like one is long-term planning, but then there's also
There's
the issue
two.
about something on the budget in 2 months.
I think
I
that's
think
the
we
board.
tackle the something on the budget in 2 months.
Okay.
And the space needs deals with the long-term demographics and the
Okay.
planning and what it would look like
Okay.
for the tax bill to have an addition on this building and what an addition on this building or a new building would look like.
Okay.
If we need one. There are a lot of big questions.
Yeah. So then for the November the budget question, then the next step is to talk to Mike about where conceivably this thing would sit and what the cost would be and that kind of stuff, tying it into the septic. Okay.
The
So
other
is
thing,
2 weeks reasonable for that? I don't know who's going to be doing
The
this.
septic guys have a big bill out to us right now. So,
Do you want me to talk to Mike about that, or?
I think the administration could you reach out to him?
There was some work done with this, I know, and I don't know, because we had talked about it at prior board meetings, what it would take to bring a modular in. So we should have some information.
is one. So the other question for you, what's the capacity of at least our current modules? I'm sure there's different sizes. You know what?
No, they're both, these two we have are identical.
No, but I mean, I'm sure you can get different size modules.
Yeah, I guess.
But do you know what the capacity of those are?
I don't know the actual, like legal fire code, I don't know.
Do you know what we have in
Right
them?
now we have roughly 18 to 20 kids in there.
So 2 of them gives you 40 students of additional capacity, or 40 student release from the current building is.
Isn't it 18 each side?
Yeah, 18 to 20.
40 per. Okay, so 80 total.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, for both of them, or are you talking about one module?
One modular, you have 2 classes.
Yeah,
one module,
so
2
roughly
classes.
40 students.
Right.
Per structure, so you have 80 students, so is conceivably, just big picture from a budgetary standpoint, is one satisfactory to take the load off the building for next year, or would?
I'd be really interested in seeing what the next year's
That's what we're
credit cost looks like.
That's what we're
We
gonna
won't,
figure out, right?
but we won't know that, from a budget standpoint, we don't know that,
Right now, that's kind of the relief we need.
at minimum.
40 to 50.
A good question would be, what would be the ideal
I mean,
number?
right now we have, every room is used, every classroom is taken up. The only room that is available as a classroom is 126, which is housing 4 to 5 staff members as an office and also as a resource room. And then we have one teacher who, our wellness teacher, is on a cart. He goes between the cafeteria, library, and 2 classrooms for the middle school.
What would be the code requirement, or what's the max that you can actually do?
Oh, in this building? I do not know that.
Fire chief left.
If we can figure that out, because that's gonna be the cap, right? We're gonna wanna get below that number.
But we don't want to. I mean, it may be that the education we're offering may be compromised before we get to that point. So there may be other issues. What's the ideal number is a good number to have also.
At one point, we
It's
were
gonna be the target.
476.
Well, I think the target may be what's educationally optimal for our kids, which may be less than the capacity of the building.
Which would be okay, and that would be, I guess, a stretch goal. Fire code is fire code. It's a safety.
Well, yeah, there's the fire code number. guys are talking different numbers.
Yeah, but I mean, if we hit fire code and then the educational level is below that, that's good.
Right.
But we gotta get to that fire code level, and then as the stretch goal,
Yeah.
as we get down to that optimal educational number, even better.
Could you, when you do speak to the modular folks, ask them about the different terms they've offered, because they've offered us different terms in the past, in terms of the leases.
Is it just one company, or we shopped different modular companies?
We just did some quotes for Pembroke, bringing in modulars next year, so I can share those with you too, for other companies.
Thank you.
Can you shoot those over to us? Put those in
Email?
email or
Drive.
Drive, or call it, I'm sorry.
So what I'm hearing is that we are going to maintain the Space Needs Committee. We're looking for new members. The board is going to deal with the immediate space need challenge. And Ken, are you comfortable leading up the Space Needs Committee?
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's a good segue to the next section.
Continuing bit, or H, yes, reassignment of board roles. You have the list.
I do.
So this year, Shelley was assigned to be the selectman's representative. She was assigned to do negotiations. She was assigned for manifest review. She was assigned for the sick bank. She was assigned for alternative high school options. She was assigned as one of the technology liaisons. And she was assigned as the building committee.
So I can, if it's helpful,
Go right ahead.
where the police committee meetings typically follow up selectmen's meetings. So where I'm already there, there's no reason why I can't do the selectmen's rep position. And then manifest review I can also grab as well. Manifest review.
Manifest and selection.
All right.
It starts to tighten up the list a little bit.
What's still open?
Negotiations.
That's current.
I'm already doing that.
And I'll do it. It's like a 2
Jim?
Sick bank, you want to? Sick bank's an easy one. Alternative high school options.
Sure.
You want to do it?
Sure.
Nate is doing that.
I'll do it right now, trading properties.
And this is just temporary until if we have another member that joins us, we can reassign again.
Which we also need to talk about at some point.
Right. We don't need somebody else on technology right now, we'll just do it on that.
Okay.
And then building committee, it was Ken and Shelley. Right now it's Ken. I think we should maybe wait on that one.
Let's wait on
that. Okay.
We can wait on that one. Because I think the immediate things are going to be done by the entire board anyway. So that's the longer term stuff we can push.
Okay. Will you provide that to us once it's updated as well?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right.
Move to accept the changes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
As a related note, we didn't talk about this in the agenda setting, but when do we want to talk about how this spot will be filled? Is that a discussion, or is that?
Well, we have in the past, we have asked for community members who are interested to submit a letter of intent, and then we have interviewed them, and then the board has made a decision.
I'd be curious what the precedent is for timing on that. I mean, there's still 2.5 years left in this term, so is there precedent? I know that happened for like a few months left on the term. That happened a couple of years ago.
Right.
But for 2.5 years left on the term, is there precedent on this board for
It's
something?
only until the next election. This
So
doesn't matter
we
when
can't
someone.
appoint
Oh, so is there an
people.
RSA that there will be 2 spots then on this next election in March?
So it'll change the sequencing of.
No, it's
No,
only it's gonna be a
everybody's the
2-year
same,
position.
yeah.
It's gonna be a 2-year term.
Yeah.
That's a
Oh,
problem.
I'm sorry, you'd be elected for a 2-year seat,
Yes.
because this year would have been the ideal for the seat.
No, it'll be a 1-year term. She's gone. She would have been.
She got elected in March.
Yeah, she was just like 6 months ago.
She was
So she
elected,
left.
she was elected.
Shelley and Zach.
Okay.
And then Nate,
I'm up this year.
Nate's up this year, Nate was on the solo cycle.
So now it'll be an empty spot
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you'll be on the solo.
No,
No,
the solo
it'll be one
stays.
for 2 years. 1 for 3 and 1 for 2.
So then, the idea is that we would then take applications or something to fill out the rest of this year
Until the
until
election.
March, and then there would be a new election for a 2-year term. Okay.
So the question is, does the board want to progress? Are there other options in terms of having members?
Can we seek nominations?
Are we discussing this now, or are we doing it under a different agenda?
It's gotta happen.
I know it's gonna happen, I just wanna make sure.
And
we're
it's immediate
following
business,
the
and we haven't moved on. Oh, we've already moved on from immediate business.
No, we
Oh,
haven't.
no, we're still in immediate business.
I think the question is, do you want to try to squeeze this in 2 weeks, or do you want to advertise and accept letters and then address it in your October meeting?
I think from the time stand, going to the October meeting would be more appropriate.
October's budget.
Trial by fire.
We have 2 meetings in October.
They're both going to be budget.
Yes, but it's still early in the budget.
I suppose.
Just saying, it's at the beginning of it, I'd rather do it at the beginning.
So if it's the wish of the board, October?
So, but now we're going to ask for interested applicants to be interviewed at the October meeting, essentially.
And we would make a decision.
We would deliberate in public and then make a decision that evening, or we could deliberate and wait. Something else. What's the wish of the board? Do you want to do it in 2 weeks, or do you want to do it in October?
I think we should go for October.
October.
October. Could you post that?
Sure.
I don't think we have any motion for you. Continuing business. Anything? We have nothing under policy?
Not tonight, we will next time.
Exciting. Informational items, you said you had a couple?
I do. Something to think out. That's for me.
Thank you.
So last Friday morning when I was here, Lynn Healy, the representative from NELMS, New England League of Middle Schools, came in and met with us to discuss the draft report. We fact-checked the report. It came in its final form, and Lynn came back today to meet with the middle school staff. We met at 1:35 and broke to dismiss kids, and then came back and met until 4 o'clock. There's a document that Lynn had asked us to highlight the strengths of the committee's report, because typically people go and look at the recommendation section, and she wanted to highlight to the staff all of the great things that happen in the school. So there's a separate document that just pulls out the strengths. Then there's the report is broken out into categories based on the turning points diagram. So it's broken out by section in the report. It's pretty clear. There's a summary, there's suggestions, recommendations, strengths. So at this point, we have broken the team into groups. They've each taken a section. They brought back, reported out in summary fashion, and talked about some of the, we call them low-hanging fruit items that we felt like we could address immediately. We identified some of those. The team has submitted those by Friday to Kristen. We will then pull that information out, and from there, we will be developing a plan of items that we would like to address now. Maybe out 1 year, and then maybe more long-term issues that we'd like to start looking at over a 3-year period. I would anticipate that we will bring a proposal for some professional development forward to let you know whether we need to bring in a consultant, whether we can just send people off to PD, we don't have that information yet. It's still early on in our review of the report. So feel free to read this over, and if you have any questions, we can try and answer them, but we are just beginning our work with this document, so it's really the first work through.
Is there a plan to make this document available to the public on the website or something like that? Or
Yep.
Can you send me the link, I guess, when it's available?
Yes.
Thank you.
There were surveys that were done by the community that back this up. Is that information available? Or?
It is not. We have it. Due to the transition in leadership, that did not get shared with staff or anyone else. So I need to get into that document and collate that information and go through it.
I'm sure I'm going to read it. Any questions on this at this point?
We want to really digest it.
Right, and so I guess in the future, will there be, when you have like the goals sort of planned, you'll come back to us and let us know?
Yeah, I think probably during Kristen's principal's report, we can keep you updated and talk about our work.
Okay, thank you.
Other informational items?
I had just, I think it's a question more than anything about the goals. I wasn't sure who was editing the goals. They were approved with edits. I didn't know if someone took notes and was going to do that, or do you want me to take a stab at it? And
I can do that.
okay. And then just, if you get them to Kathy, we'll get them posted.
Okay.
And if you need anything from us, just let us know. She might get those posted.
I will do that.
Other informational item? Anything else?
I don't think so.
I wanted to put out that the communicator is back in town, and I read that one of the police officers is getting DARE certified. So something I wanted to actually, I don't know if the administration agrees with this, so something I wanted to kind of float out there was the idea of hopefully the DARE officer gets certified soon, but I did want to say that it'd be great if the police came through the building on a regular basis, and maybe as a board we could offer them free lunch. Sure. Come and have lunch with the kids, to just let the kids meet them. I don't know if the board wanted to
Move the police for free at DCS.
There's a lot of pastry humor there, but I'm not going to do it. Is everybody else?
You can offer them lunch when they're here. That's not a problem.
Yeah, everybody else? Okay.
Yes.
Invite them to come and have lunch with the kids.
Go the officers.
No, but he was sitting on a swing, and the picture said, he looks so friendly.
There's been an increased level of presence here in the building. Kristen's done a great job at outreach. We had some officers on the grounds at the end of the school year, walking around, seeing kids, talking to kids. So I think that's not going to be a problem with the relationships to facilitate.
So feed them. All right. Any other informational items? We're on to public comments.
Alright, I have two. So, first, immediate work for budgeting, for the upcoming budget, with regard to growth, and capacity would be, if we have 5 pending, referrals for preschool, the special ed bus is currently, I believe, at capacity, so that would include budgeting for another special education bus, because by law you have to drive transportation for preschoolers if they require an IEP. Also, that's also going to, if the student population is growing, it's also going to bump up the cost or the funds needed for the lines for field trips, because you're going to need more buses. The current 8th grade class will not fit on one bus to go to New York. If that trip does happen this year, you'll need 2. So that's something to consider as far as field trip. And then if we're continuing to grow, increase in the supply lines for paper, copying, all that basic stuff that if you have to add another class or add more support. And again, if you have 5 referrals pending for special ed currently, and when those kids move up to kindergarten next year, they may or may not, depending on the individual and what the finding is, need para support in the classroom, which is an additional staff. They might be one-to-one or shared if those students that are pending for preschool continue on.
We really can't discuss the specifics of.
No, I'm not, I'm just saying for budgeting issues.
Okay,
like,
but we can't
institutions-
discuss what happens to an individual with a special education.
I'm just saying the potential is there for the need for para-educator support in the classroom, which is additional salaries to be considered for the budget. So then, along with that, if the capacity on the bus, I mean, this is a seating chart for my bus, I have 3 empty seats, that's 3 kids to C through 8th grade, and they're just barely fitting without winter gear and snow boots and snow pants is gonna come up, so you may need to think about adding an additional regular school bus next year. I don't know, just throw it out there. But kind of tied into that property on Stage Road that the town's expressing an interest in, my concern or something to think about along those lines that I'd like to see the board consider when they're considering that, is if we end up possibly using that, needing to use that property, how much footage is available on Stage Road or Route 43? How much would be required by a safety complex or whatever the proposal is, and then if we decide later down the road we need to use that same property, what are the hazards of having emergency vehicles entering in and out of the same area as school buses with students? So just something to consider there for that. Additionally, let's see, and, you know, considering an engineering project or an engineering review for that intersection of 43 and 107 where that property lines up, because that intersection I would assume may need to be redesigned to accommodate the increased traffic flow. I mean, as it is now, parents dropping kids off for school are backing up into the traffic lanes on 107. It's a pretty long driveway. So, and that, again, with increasing populations, are we going to have more cars in line waiting to drop kids off? I don't know. I'm just throwing those things out there that are kind of on my list, because Middle Road, as it stands now, would not serve as appropriate access to that property or that lot in the conditions in currently. It's not a major road, it's not paved, it's not wide enough for all that traffic. Just some things to throw out there.
We are supposed to keep these to 2 minutes.
Okay. I can give somebody else a turn. I don't mind. With regard to the after-school program, being housed here at DCS, I have 3 pages of those, I will summarize that. Just questions to maybe the Parks and Rec to consider when they prepare their proposal. If the school is the designated emergency shelter for the town, and there is a storm or something, what happens then with the students? What would we do with those? Would the Parks and Rec department be renting? Would the school?
Julie, if you want to write up your questions and send it in, we really have to keep it to 2 minutes per person for public comments.
Okay. Well, at 1:30 at night this morning when I woke up, I had 5 things running through my head. Let's see. So if the Parks and concerns I've heard from other people that I will relay, concerns are that the Parks and Rec after-school program is providing great service, but it's for profit. And a few years ago, the town decided not to plow the school property anymore, and it's now in our budget, and it's something the school absorbed. So I'm saying one hand washes the other. I mean, I would like to see if the school can help out with that, wonderful. But at the same time, I would like to see the school maintain what's in their best interest. And I just don't want to see I just don't want to see the school lose out on an opportunity for potential income if it might benefit the bottom line with the growth and expansions we're talking about in population.
Thank you very much. Are there other public comments?
Hi everyone, I'm Donna O'Brien. I work here as a para at DCS, and I am one of the private persons who stepped up to offer aftercare for some families who are in need for aftercare. So I apologize if that caused a commotion with the buses. It wasn't my intention. The parents told me that
they call the bus in the school district, kids to ride green bus, that's the bus stop that I'm on, I'm right down on 107. So I guess my question is, I have right now 8 families who want their children to come to my program. I have another 4 who are interested for next month. Is there anything we can do to help them get down the street to my farm? Because I can provide the aftercare that they need.
The school does not facilitate bus travel to private after-school programs.
Okay. So they can't, even though these kids would normally take buses, they can't switch to a different bus?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comments? Yes?
I had a couple questions, but a lot of them were answered just through listening to the meeting. And I'm not sure if I allowed to ask questions now or if it's just straight comments.
This is typically for comments.
Okay. I guess I would like to bring up the facts. One of the things that I wanted to ask about, though I guess I won't answer, is our issue with school snow days last year and running longer and then having to adjust the hours. And I was curious if when we come to talking about the school calendar for next year, if there was any discussion that had happened around either lengthening the school day to build in for those snow days. And then I'm sure everyone in this room is aware that Governor Sununu now decided that no schools should start before Labor Day, and that should be an initiative. So I would just like to encourage the board to consider either lengthening the school day or somehow building in more snow days into the school calendar when that discussion comes up. The question I had was whether or not that is even being talked about. One other comment I thought of, and through talking with, I'm a young mom. I have a kid in 3rd grade, and I have one who just started kindergarten. So we're just in the beginning of our DCS journey. And my youngest son participated in preschool last year, which was a great program. I have a lot of friends who are also on the beginning of their DCS journey. Most of my friends have kids that are 3rd grade or younger. And what I'm hearing from them is a lot of concern with the after-school program, a lot of concern with the building and the space. And those of us who moved to town fairly shortly, I've only lived in town for 5 years, have seen this population explode. And it's wonderful, it's a great town, and I'm always excited when people move here, but again, I think the building needs is something that is really serious, that's really present on a lot of our minds, because we have kids that are just starting out, and I think nearly everyone I know believes it's only going to continue to grow. So my question for that was about the demographic study and where those of us in the public can access that study, because I never remember hearing anything about it once it was passed in the budget. So I guess I'll send an email to find out where we can access that. And then another thing is a suggestion for the after-school staffing. Part of the problem, I think, is the fact that we send our kids to Concord for high school, and all of our high school kids are in Concord, and they can't work in after school when they're all in Concord. So perhaps, and this is just an idea, I don't know how feasible it would be, but maybe something to consider would be a discussion with Concord High School in terms of, can we get any of, let's take a temperature of how many of these kids might be interested in actually working for the after-school program. Is there maybe some sort of credit that they could get that would allow you as Parks and Rec to take a Parks and Rec band to pick them up and bring them back so they can teach, or not teach, but be caregivers in the after-school program? Is there something we can work out there to have your staffing back and to be able to have those kids come here? That might be a solution that is worth looking into to solve your staffing problems, at least.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. Travis.
I wanted Travis real quick. Just wanted to speak to the demographics. I'm sure I'll get a better grasp on that soon. But I think Deerfield's kind of unique. The surrounding communities we have a wonderful special ed department here that actually draws a lot of people toward Deerfield if they have a child with special needs. Deerfield's an excellent school to bring them to. We have a great Parks and Rec department, and for many years they've been providing all these services to families and children and such. Of course, we have Easy Park, which again is a wonderful thing for families. So I think when we look at population growth to try and compare to the places around us. That may be why we're seeing, we're getting more students when Raymond is declining in enrollment, and some of these other towns are really seeing a decline. Candia, the same thing. So I just want to mention that. And about the property, Stage Road. It's obvious the town is really interested in you guys giving them a piece of that property. My fear is the same as was spoken over here, is if we do ever choose to use that for a school that we will need, eventually, we will need a new school, we'll vote it down year after year, and every time it comes up, we're gonna vote it down, but eventually it's not gonna balance out, we're gonna have to build a new building. I would hate to see us do anything over on that property that would hinder that kind of progress. And I've said it before, and I'm just gonna say it again, all the money that needs to go into the school to renovate it to be a school, we don't need to do half of that stuff to make it a fire police safety complex. They can take the building over, help us build a new school over on Stage Road. I've been here for 40 years and I've voted down new schools. I don't know how many times. It's not one that that's not a plan that I would vote down. So I just want to say it one more time, just put it out there. I hope the police committee, the building committee is thinking along the same lines, at least entertaining those kind of outside of the box Yankee solutions, as Andy put it. Maybe that's the kind of Yankee solution that we're looking for. So appreciate the time. So, thank you.
Any other comments? All right, well, what happens now is we're going to go into non-public session to discuss things that we cannot discuss in public. I appreciate everybody who came tonight. You are welcome to stay. You just can't be in the room. When we come out of non-public, and I have no idea how long that's going to take, we will go into appointments and resignations. I also want to say that public comments, we do listen. The public comments is strictly to hear from people. It's not to engage in a back and forth. I wish we could engage in a back and forth, but we would all be here till midnight. So thank you for coming, and I hope we have a crowd like this next time.
Thank you.
So, do you guys want to take a 5-minute recess? No. Pizza recess? What do you mean? Pizza. 5-minute break? Alright, we were all in favor of all in turn for 5 minutes. Make a motion to adjourn for 5 minutes. Short recess. I would now, as per NHRSA 91-A:32, C, entertain a motion to go into non-public.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Jim, yes. Ken?
Yes.
At 8:04, we are moving into non-public.